I died choking on my own blood. The metallic tang flooding my mouth as my father's hands, those same hands that had signed my college tuition checks with a sigh, wrapped around my throat in the dim glow of his study. "You're nothing but a disappointment, Violet," he'd snarled, his face twisted into something unrecognizable. Fueled by the whiskey he'd been nursing since Mom left us for good. The irony? I'd come home that night to confront him about the embezzlement he'd pinned on me. The one that had cost me my job, my fiancé, and every shred of self-worth I'd clawed together. But he knew. God. He knew it was him all along, siphoning funds from the family business to feed his gambling debts. And when I pulled out the evidence, printouts from the offshore accounts, I saw the panic in his eyes. Panic turned to rage. One shove against the desk, my head cracking on the edge, and then his grip tightening until the world faded to black. I remember thinking, as the light dimmed, this can't be how it ends. Not for me. Not after everything. But it did end. Or so I thought. The next thing I knew, I was gasping awake in my old twin bed, the faded posters of indie bands peeling from the walls of my childhood bedroom in that godforsaken McMansion in suburban Chicago. Sweat soaked my tank top, my heart hammering like I'd just run a marathon. The alarm clock on my nightstand blinked 6:47 a.m., June 15th, 2018. 3 years. 3 goddamn years before that night in the study. I bolted upright, staring at my hands, smooth, unscarred, the nails not chipped from nights spent scraping by in a dingy apartment after Dad's lies had tanked my life. I was 25 again. Me. Violet Harper. Back. The shock hit like a freight train. I stumbled to the mirror, my reflection staring back, wide green eyes. That same unruly auburn hair I'd always hated for making me look like a wild thing in a world of polished stepforwards. But it was real. This was real. I'd read those reincarnation novels, the ones where the hero gets a do-over to fix every wrong. Bullshit fantasy, I'd called them, curled up in therapy sessions I couldn't afford after the fallout. Yet here I was, pulse racing, the ghost of my father's chokehold still phantom tight around my neck. He's going to kill me, I thought, the certainty bone deep. Unless I kill him first. Not literally, I'm no monster, but his empire, his reputation, the life he built on my broken back, that I could dismantle, brick by goddamn brick. Downstairs, the smell of burnt coffee wafted up, mingled with the sizzle of bacon. Dad was already at it, humming off-key to some classic rock station on the kitchen radio. The same routine that had masked his secrets for years. Mom had bailed when I was 16, tired of his harmless flings and the way he'd gaslight her into thinking she was the crazy one. Left me to hold the fort, playing the perfect daughter while he paraded me around like a trophy at company barbecues for Harper Construction. Violet's got my brains, he'd boast, clapping me on the back too hard, while behind closed doors, he'd nitpick every grade, every boyfriend, every dream that didn't align with his vision of success. College? I paid for it with scholarships and side gigs because real Harpers don't beg for handouts. The business? He dangled it like a carrot, promising I'd inherit someday if I proved myself. Lies. All of it. I paused at the bottom of the stairs, gripping the banister until my knuckles whitened. This time, I wouldn't play the fool. This time, I'd see the cracks before they swallowed me whole. "Morning, Dad," I said, forcing a smile as I entered the kitchen, the words tasting like ash. He turned, spatula in hand, his salt and pepper hair still thick at 52. That salesman grin plastered on. There's my girl. Sleep okay? You look like you saw a ghost. If only you knew. Yeah. Just a weird dream. I slid onto a stool at the island, watching him plate the food, overcooked as always, a metaphor for his love. As he slid the plate over, his eyes flicked to my laptop bag by the door. Big day at the internship. Don't screw it up.
Vi.
These connections are gold. The internship. My foot in the door at a rival firm. One that would later torpedo my career when Dad whispered poison in their ears. I'll try not to, I muttered, biting into the bacon to hide the tremor in my hands. But inside, gears were turning. Revenge wasn't a sprint, it was a marathon of calculated moves. First, money. Dad's Achilles heel. He'd start siphoning from the company books in 18 months, right after landing that big municipal contract for the Chicago Riverwalk expansion. I'd be there, not as the scapegoat, but as the silent saboteur. That afternoon, feigning a headache to skip the office, I drove to the nearest branch of my old bank, Wells Fargo, the one with the drive-through teller who always flirted shamelessly. Heart pounding, I opened a new account, a business, one under a shell LLC I'd name later. Vesper Holdings, after the cocktail Mom loved before she left. Bitter, complex, unforgettable. I deposited my first check, $500 from my meager savings. It was a start, but I needed more. Needed to burrow into the foundations of his world without him noticing. Nights blurred into a frenzy of research.
By day,
I was the dutiful daughter, acing my MBA classes at DePaul, charming his clients at dinners where he'd pat my knee under the table like I was still 12. By night, holed up in the public library with VPNs and free Wi-Fi, I devoured financial blogs, YouTube tutorials on real estate flips, and forums for whistleblowers who'd toppled corrupt execs. Dad's gambling? It started small online poker sites, then Vegas weekends he called networking trips. I'd enable it this time.
subtly.
A nudge here, a harmless app suggestion there. Let the debts pile up. Let him dig his own grave. 2 months in, the first crack appeared. We were at one of his infamous barbecues, the backyard strung with fairy lights, the air thick with charcoal smoke and forced laughter. Uncle Ray, Dad's slimy brother, the one who'd cover for his indiscretions, cornered me by the cooler. Your old man's got big plans for you.
Kiddo.
Just keep your nose clean. His breath reeked of beer, his hand lingering too long on my arm. I smiled, nodded, but filed it away. Ray was in on the secrets. Maybe even deeper than Dad. That's when I met Elena. She was the new paralegal at Dad's firm. A sharp-eyed Latina in her 30s with a no-bullshit vibe that cut through the corporate schmooze. We bonded over cheap Merlot at the edge of the party, her venting about the good old boys club while I probed gently. You ever notice anything off with the books? I asked, casual as hell. Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't bolt. Off, honey. It's a goddamn swamp. But if you're asking,
Yeah.
discrepancies. Big ones. Jackpot. By week's end, we'd exchanged numbers. Elena became my ghost in the machine, access to internal emails, whispers of shady deals. In return, a cut of whatever empire I'd built from the ruins. But revenge has a way of twisting you. Late one night, staring at my laptop screen glowing with spreadsheets of Dad's projected cash flow, doubt crept in. Is this who I am now? A spider weaving webs in the dark? I thought of Mom's last letter. Tucked in my drawer. Run. Violet. He's poison. She died in a car wreck 6 months after leaving. Suspicious breaks. The cops called it an accident. Dad had cried at the funeral, but his eyes were dry. What if he'd?
No.
Focus. This was for her.
For me.
Fall turned to winter. Snow blanketing the windy city in a hush that mirrored my growing silence at home. Dad noticed. Of course. What's eating you?
The
Boyfriend troubles. He'd probe over dinner, his fork scraping the plate like nails on a chalkboard. I'd deflect with half-truths about school stress, all while funneling gifts from his wallet into Vesper, $100 bills I'd borrow for gas, replaced with IOUs in my mind. By Christmas, my account had swelled to 10 grand, invested in a starter stock, a REIT focused on foreclosed properties. Poetic, right? Owning pieces of broken dreams, just like he'd own mine. The real game began in January 2019. Dad landed the Riverwalk contract, $50 million. Headlines in the Tribune calling him Chicago's king of concrete. Celebrations flowed. Champagne toasts where he'd hoist me up like a prize. To my successor, he'd roar, and the crowd would cheer, oblivious to the venom in his glance when we were alone. Successor my ass. You'd bury me first. That's when I made my first controversial move. Elena slipped me the blueprints, not the official ones, but the rigged bids Dad had doctored to undercut competitors. Bribes to inspectors. Kickbacks to councilmen. I could have gone to the feds right then, blown it wide open. But no. That was too clean. Too quick. Instead, I leaked snippets anonymously to a local blogger, the kind who thrived on expose threads on Reddit. Nothing damning, just enough to stir whispers. Is Harper Construction playing dirty? The post read, racking up upvotes overnight. Dad raged in the boardroom, firing assistants left and right. Paranoia setting in. Good. Let it fester. Meanwhile, Vesper grew. I flipped my first property, a rundown duplex in Pilsen. Bought at auction for peanuts with a loan I'd qualified for using my intern credentials. Sweat equity. Nights painting walls with Elena's help. Her laughing at my ineptitude with a caulk gun. We turned it around in 2 months, netting 15 grand profit. Half went back into the pot, the other half, a down payment on something bigger. Dad's something. He didn't suspect a thing. Why would he? I was still his little girl, bringing him coffee at the site, listening to his boasts about legacy. But legacies crumble.
Dad.
Especially when the foundations rot. Spring brought the thaw, and the thaw brought opportunity. Dad's gambling escalated, as I knew it would. I'd innocently introduced him to a high-stakes app during a Bears game watch party, watching his eyes light up at the rush. Losses mounted. 5 figures. Then 6. He started dipping into petty cash. Then vendor payments. Elena confirmed it. Diversions routed through Ray's shell accounts. The betrayal deepened when I uncovered Mom's crash. Tampered brakes. Paid for by a mechanic on Dad's payroll. He'd silenced her for good, afraid she'd expose his affairs in the divorce. The rage boiled over that night. Alone in my room. Fists clenched until nails drew blood. Monster. But I swallowed it.
Channeled it.
Revenge wasn't fury, it was ice. By summer, Vesper Holdings was a shadow empire. I'd acquired 3 more flips, Each profit leveraged into liens on commercial plots near the Riverwalk. Subtle moves, buying distressed debt from Dad's suppliers, the ones he stiffed on payments. When they came calling, I'd negotiate quietly, absorbing the notes under Vesper.
Piece by piece.
His supply chain choked. And then, the masterstroke, the house. Our house, this sprawling colonial on Lakeshore Drive, bought with blood money from Mom's life insurance. Dad deeded it to himself after her death, calling it stability for the family. Stability my ass. It was collateral for his loans. Through Elena's connections, I traced the mortgage to a subprime lender teetering on bankruptcy. A whisper campaign, fueled by my anonymous tips, tanked their stock. They folded. And in the fire sale, Vesper swooped in, purchasing the underlying trust that held the title. For a steal. The deed transferred seamlessly, buried in paperwork. As of July 4th, 2019, fireworks popping over the lake, I owned 1427 Elmwood Lane. His house. Our prison. The irony was delicious. I'd host barbecues now, smiling as he grilled burgers on my patio. Proud of you, Vi, he'd say, oblivious. His debt's now a noose I'd tied myself. But cracks showed. Ray pulled me aside one evening, eyes darting. Your dad's in deep shit. You hear anything? I feigned concern, heart racing. Like what? He spilled just enough offshore wires. A rival firm sniffing around.
Perfect.
Autumn winds howled as the noose tightened. Dad's rages grew erratic. He'd smash plates, blame the economy for delays on Riverwalk. I played the comforter, brewing his scotch neat, all while monitoring Vesper's portfolio. Profits hit six figures. Enough to fund the final play, a lawsuit. Not against him. Too direct. Against Harper Construction. Filed by concerned stakeholders, me, through proxies. Allegations of fraud, backed by Elena's docs. The board panicked. Shares plummeted. Dad called an emergency meeting, his voice booming over speakerphone as I worked late at the kitchen table. Someone's gunning for us.
Vi.
You hear anything at school? Nothing.
Dad. But.
Maybe it's time to audit the books. The suggestion hung. Poisonous. He hung up, cursing. Winter 2020 loomed, snow piling like unpaid bills. My controversial decisions mounted. I'd slept with a city inspector once, just to glean intel on the bribes, hated myself after, but it confirmed Dad's web. Elena warned me, this path, it eats you alive. Girl. She was right. Nights blurred with insomnia, ghosts of what-ifs. What if I just left, walked away? But the echo of his hands on my throat silenced that.
No.
Justice first. Then, the call. February 14th, Valentine's. Of all days. Dad's voice cracked over the line from his office.
Vi. Come home. Now.
I arrived to chaos. Cops in the foyer. Ray in cuffs. Bellowing about setup. Dad paced. Face ashen. A stack of warrants on the coffee table. They think I cooked the books.
Me.
After everything I've built. I stood there, arms crossed. The house, my house, feeling like a tomb. What do you need? Dad.
Lies.
All lies. But the hook was set. As the investigation dragged into spring, Dad unraveled. Booze-fueled tirades. Accusations flying at shadows. He turned on me one night, slamming his fist on the island. This is your fault, isn't it? Always the weak link. Violet. I should have known you'd sabotage me. The words echoed my deathbed memory. Rage flaring. I met his eyes.
Cold.
Maybe you should look in the mirror. The climax hit in May, under a sky bruised with storm clouds. The feds raided Harper HQ, hauling servers and shredders. Dad barricaded in the study, the same one where he'd end me in my first life, phoning lawyers in hysterics. I waited until dusk, rain lashing the windows, then slipped in with a manila envelope. Dad, I said softly, closing the door. He whirled, eyes bloodshot.
You, get out.
This is all falling apart because of you. I tossed the envelope on the desk. It spilled open, deeds.
Yeah.
The foreclosure notice stamped with Vesper Holdings. His name nowhere.
Mine.
Everywhere. Actually, I said, voice steady as the thunder outside, it's because of this. He snatched it up, scanning, confusion twisting to fury. What the hell is this? Some joke. No joke. I own it all. The house. The company debts. Even that plot you were eyeing for the next phase. His face drained of color. The pieces clicking. The leaks. The supply snarls. The shell vanishing his escape routes.
You.
You little bitch.
How?
By being smarter than you ever gave me credit for. The words hung. Electric. He lunged, hands outstretched just like before, but I sidestepped, grabbing the letter opener from the desk. Not to strike, but to hold ground. Touch me, and it's assault on top of fraud. The cameras in the hall? They're mine too. He staggered back, collapsing into his chair. The fight leaching out.
Why?
I'm your father. You're a thief. A liar. You killed Mom. The accusation landed like a bomb. His eyes widened guilt, raw and exposed. It was an accident. She was going to take everything. Everything you stole first. Tears burned, but I held them. This was the twist, not just revenge, but revelation. Elena had dug it up months ago, brake fluid receipts, a payoff to the mechanic. I'd held it back, letting it fester.
Now.
It poisoned him from within. Cops knocked then, my tip. As they cuffed him, reading rights in the pouring rain, he twisted toward me, rain mixing with tears. You'll regret this, Violet. Blood's thicker. Blood washes out. I cut him off, stepping back as they loaded him into the cruiser. The house stood silent behind me, mine at last.
Free.
But freedom's a double-edged blade. In the months that followed, the empire crumbled, Harper Construction dissolved, assets auctioned. Vesper rose from the ashes, me at the helm, Elena as CFO. We rebuilt. Green, sustainable builds for underserved neighborhoods. A fuck you to Dad's concrete jungle. Ray flipped, testifying for a plea, spilling decades of dirt. The trial was a circus, headlines screaming, "Fallen tycoon betrays daughter," painting me the victim saint. Close enough. Yet the twist lingered. On release day, parole after 3 years for cooperating, I met him at the gates. Frail now, 60 and broken, eyes pleading.
Vi.
Can we start over? The old me might have crumbled. But this Violet? I handed him an envelope, a one-way bus ticket to nowhere, and a note. You taught me failure's not falling. It's staying down. Don't come back. He boarded, vanishing into the gray. I drove home, to our old house, now a community center for at-risk kids. Mom's photo on the wall.
Smiling. Peace.
Finally. Or so I thought. That night. A knock. Elena. Breathless. Thrusting a file. One more secret. Inside. DNA results. Not his daughter. Mom's affair. A revenge of her own. The ultimate betrayal. I laughed. Bitter and free. Blood or not, I'd won. And in the quiet, as fireworks lit the July sky, echoing that deed transfer years back, I whispered to the empty room. Here's to second chances. The end?
Nah.
Just the beginning. The fallout from Dad's arrest was a media shitstorm. The kind that turns quiet suburbs into tabloid feeding frenzies. Reporters camped on my lawn now. The one I paid off with Vesper profits. Microphones thrust like daggers. Questions laced with that faux sympathy journalists love. MS. Harper, how does it feel to betray your own father? One yelled. A peroxide blonde from Fox Chicago. Her cameraman zooming in on my face like I was Exhibit A in the freak show. Betray? If only they knew the half of it. I slammed the door, drew the blinds, and poured a glass of that Vesper martini, dry, with a twist of lemon for the bitterness. Elena texted, "Stay strong. We're ghosts now."
Ghosts.
Fitting. In my first life, I'd been the invisible one, fading into Dad's shadow while he built his kingdom on lies. Now, I was the specter haunting it. The trial started in June 2020, right as COVID lockdowns eased and the world craved distraction. Court TV ate it up, the all-American family imploding in a blaze of financial forgery and patricide light. Dad's defense painted him as a flawed but loving father, pushed to the brink by a vengeful daughter. My testimony? Clinical. Dates. Documents. The offshore trails Elena and I had mapped like cartographers of corruption. No tears. No histrionics. Just facts, delivered in that steady Midwestern cadence I'd honed in debate club. The controversial bit? The judge, a grizzled vet named Harlan who'd lost his own kid to opioids, let in Mom's crash evidence. Relevant to motive, he grumbled, banging the gavel as the courtroom gasped. Dad's face crumpled on the stand, that salesman charm cracking under cross-exam. It was a mistake, he admitted, voice breaking. I paid the mechanic to scare her, make her back off the divorce settlement. But the brakes. I didn't mean.
The jury didn't buy it.
Manslaughter tacked on. 15 years minimum. As the verdict dropped, guilty on all counts, his eyes locked on mine across the room. Not rage this time.
Despair.
You did this,
they said.
Damn right I did. Outside, protesters gathered, picket signs waving family over fortune from Dad's old golf buddies, the ones who'd profited from his kickbacks. A few hurled epithets. Ungrateful bitch, one red-faced retiree spat. I met their glares. Chin up. Controversial? Hell yes. Society loves the prodigal son. But a daughter dismantling the patriarch? That's heresy. Elena pulled me into the getaway car, her grip tight on the wheel. You okay? I nodded. But inside, the weight pressed. Revenge tasted like victory, but it stuck in your throat like ash. Vesper thrived in the chaos. With Harper's carcass carved up, we bid on the scraps, cranes, Blueprints. A warehouse in Logan Square. I rebranded. Harper no more. Vesper Ventures. Building tomorrow. Brick by honest brick. Cheesy slogan. But it sold. Investors flocked. Impact funds smelling redemption in my story. The woman who toppled her tyrant dad. One VC gushed over Zoom. Toasting with his craft IPA. I smiled. Signed the checks. All while funneling 10% to women's shelters. Mom's legacy. Amplified. But peace? Elusive. Nightmares plagued me, choking. Darkness. Dad's whisper. Failure. I'd wake gasping. The old house creaking like it mourned its ghosts. That's when I started therapy for real this time. Not the bargain bin sessions post-scandal in Life 1. Dr. Leong. A no-nonsense Korean-American with a South Side accent. Didn't coddle. Revenge is a drug. Violet. High's great. Crash is hell. What's your exit strategy? I didn't have one.
Yet.
Summer faded into a brutal fall. Leaves turning blood red as Dad's appeals dragged.
Ray.
The weasel. Cut a deal early, 6 months for ratting out the council bribes. He showed up at my office unannounced. Slick suit hanging loose on his frame.
V. Kiddo.
Family's family. I buzzed security, without a word. But his parting shot lingered. He wrote you a letter. Before sentencing. Hand-delivered later. Scrawled in his looping script, I failed you. Like I failed her. Forgive? Bullshit. I burned it in the office fireplace. Watching flames lick the words away. The real tension brewed with Jake, my ex from Life 1. The fiancé who dumped me when Dad's lies cost me my job. Turns out, in this timeline, we'd reconnected at a Paul mixer. Sparks flying over craft beers and shared cynicism. He was steady, a civil engineer with calloused hands and a laugh that cut through my walls. Your force. Vi, he'd say, tracing my scars, not the visible ones, but the ones etched in silence. We moved in together that October. Into a loft in Wicker Park I'd flipped through Vesper. Domestic bliss. Almost. But doubts gnawed. Can I love without the poison? Then. The twist no one saw coming. November. Election night. Biden edging out Trump in a nail-biter that had Chicago buzzing. Elena burst into the loft. Face pale. Thrusting a thumb drive. Anonymous source. Check it. Files upon files. Not Dad's.
But mine.
Hacks into Vesper servers. Tracing my shell core back to the leaks. The liens. Someone had flipped the script. Evidence planting me as the mastermind. Framing Dad to seize control.
Who?
I demanded. Pulse thundering. Her eyes met mine.
Heavy. Ray. And.
You're bored. That VC? He's in bed with the old guard. They want Vesper gutted. Sold off. Betrayal. Round 2. Deeper. Because I'd trusted, built, with them. Jake paced. Furious. We fight. Lawyers. PR spin. But I saw the endgame. Dragged through mud again. Painted the villain. Controversial decisions loomed. Fold and run. Or double down. Risk it all? I chose the latter. Sleepless nights hacking back, legally. With Elena's tech whiz cousin. Uncovering the web. Ray as puppet. The VC as spider. The climax? A sting op. My design. Fake board meeting. Wired for sound. We take her down. The VC sneered on tape. Cigars puffing. Harper Blood's week, time for real players. Leaked to the Sun-Times pre-dawn. Front page glory. Vesper betrayal. Insiders plot coup. Feds swarmed by noon. Ray sang like a canary, again naming names. The VC? Indicted. His fund imploding. Vesper stabilized. Stronger. With me at the helm unassailable. Jake proposed that week. Rings simple silver. Eyes earnest. Build with me?
Yes.
1,000 times. But the deepest cut came in December. Snow blanketing the city like absolution. Dad's parole hearing accelerated for good behavior. I testified, remotely. Voice steady. He's a chameleon. Your Honor. Charm when cornered. Venom when free.
Denied.
Another 5 years. That night, alone in the loft, Jake at a sight, I found the letter in my mailbox. Not Dad's. Mom's. Unsealed. Dated the day she left. Violet. If you're reading this, I failed you too. The affair. It was escape. Your real dad? A musician. Gone before you were born. Harper's no blood. Run free. The DNA test Elena had run months back confirmed it. Twist upon twist. I wasn't his failure. I was never his. Laughter bubbled. Hysterical, then cathartic. The house, sold to fund scholarships for girls like me, trapped,
Talented.
unseen. Vesper expanded. National now. Green towers rising in Detroit.
Philly.
Elena and I toasted New Year's with Vesper martinis, Jake's hand in mine. To do-overs, I said. The ghosts? Faded. Not gone, but quiet. And in the tension's wake, life bloomed, messy.
Real. Mine.
2021 dawned with a vengeance. The kind Chicago winters reserve for the unwary, blizzards burying cars. Winds howling off the lake like banshees. Vesper was a beast now. Contracts pouring in from coast to coast. My face on Forbes 30 under 30 for ethical disruption. Ironic, given the blood on the blueprints. Jake and I married in a backyard ceremony at the old Pilsen duplex, now a co-op for artists. Vows exchanged under string lights. Elena officiating with her trademark smirk. Don't fuck it up.
Vi.
Laughter rippled. Real and warm. For the first time, I breathed without the weight. But tension simmers. Doesn't it? Dad's appeals crawled on. A zombie process shambling through appeals courts. Letters arrived, smuggled via Ray's prison pals. Pleading. Then vitriolic. You'll die alone. Traitor. I'd archive them. Fuel for the fire that still smoldered low.
Dr.
Leon called it unfinished business. Closure's a myth, she'd say. Sipping tea in her loop office. It's integration. What does he teach you now? Resilience. I guessed. The art of building from ruins. The next controversy hit in spring. As Vesper broke ground on a flagship project, a mixed-use tower in Bronzeville. Affordable units woven into luxury condos. Activists picketed, gentrification in sheep's clothing, while City Hall whispered about preferential treatment for the fallen Harper princess. Jake fielded the brunt. His engineers calm a bomb. Facts over fear, he'd murmur, pulling me into bed after strategy sessions. Nights tangled in sheets, his touch erasing echoes of phantom hands. Love as rebellion. Who knew? Elena uncovered the mole first, a junior exec. Poached from the old Harper ranks. Leaking bids to undercut us. Controversial call. I confronted her in the boardroom. glass walls fogging with tension.
Why?
She crumbled, tears streaking mascara. Your dad. He promised, brainwashed. I fired her clean, no charges, just a severance and a referral to counseling. Mercy or manipulation? The line blurred. Jake approved. You're better than him.
Was I?
Summer brought heat waves and heat, scandal. Simmering from Dad's camp. A podcaster. Some true crime hack chasing clicks. Dropped an episode. The daughter who framed her father. Violet Harper's dark secret. Twists galore. Fabricated chats suggesting I'd forged the mom evidence. Paid Elena to perjure. Listeners ate it up. Death threats pinging my inbox. Jake installed security. Elena sued for defamation. But the damage? A client pulled out. Stock dipped. I faced the board. My board. Loyal now, voice cracking for the first time. This ends with me standing. They nodded. We pivoted. Transparency audit. Public ledger. Radical.
Risky.
It worked. Praise rolled in. Harper 2.0 trending. The high tide of tension crashed in August. Parole granted, overturned on a technicality. Dad walking free on a humid afternoon. Reporters swarmed the gates again, but he dodged, vanishing into a halfway house in Cicero. I knew he'd come. And he did. 3 days later, pounding on the loft door at midnight. Jake answered, fists clenched, but I waved him back. My mess. Dad looked wrecked, gaunt, gray stubble, eyes hollowed by regret or rage. I couldn't tell.
Vi.
Please. He clutched a duffel. Rain-soaked. Just a bed. One night. The old pull tugged, Stockholm echoes from childhood. The daughter programmed to fix. Controversial. I let him in. Brewed coffee. Sat across the kitchen island like strangers. Jake hovered. Protective shadow. Why now? I asked. Steam curling between us. Nothing left. You took it all. Bitter laugh. Proud.
No.
Hollow. Truth spilled then. Damned too long. The affair reveal. The DNA. His face crumpled, not denial.
But sorrow.
I knew. Suspected. Loved you anyway.
Lie? Maybe.
But it cracked something. We talked till dawn, Mom's laugh. My first bike. The business dreams he'd twisted. Dawn broke.
Pink over the skyline.
Go, I said finally. Rebuild. Alone. He left. Duffel slung. No backward glance. Closure?
Nah.
But a door shut. Fall gilded the tension gold. Projects blooming. Vesper hit $1 billion valuation. Me keynoting at TEDx Chicago. From failure to fortress. Reclaiming your legacy. Standing ovation. Jake in the front row. Eyes shining. Elena whispered post-talk. You're a badass. We launched a foundation, Violet's Voice, for abuse survivors. Scholarships tied to therapy. Mom's ghost smiled. The final twist? Christmas Eve. A package. Dad's handwriting. Postmarked from a nowhere town in Iowa. Inside, a key to the old house. Deeded fully to me. Notarized. A note, it's yours. Always was. Forgive? I didn't burn it. Framed it. Beside Mom's photo in the foundation office. Not forgiveness, acknowledgement. 2022 unfurled like a promise. Jake and I expecting tiny heartbeat on ultrasound. A girl. Violet Jr., he teased. Nah. Hope. Elena Godmother. Vesper Global. Dad, rumors, sober. Volunteering at a shelter. Distant, but alive.
Free.
In the end, revenge wasn't the win. It was the forge, hammering weakness to steel. I stood on the Riverwalk once, where it all began, Dad's crown jewel. Now Vesper managed. Green spaces for all. Wind off the lake, carrying whispers of what-ifs. But I turned, walked forward. Second chances aren't gifts. They're goddamn wars. And I'd won mine.